Hello, the unspoken woman. Welcome to the channel. Never mistake God's silence for his absence. The people he chooses often arrive without applause, but they never leave without changing the room. Have you ever noticed that some women don't chase attention, yet attention somehow finds them? They don't walk into a room trying to be noticed, but somehow people start sitting a little straighter, talking a little softer, and thinking a little deeper. It's almost as if their presence quietly rearranges the atmosphere. Here's an interesting fact. Human beings form first impressions in just a few seconds. But every once in a while, someone comes along who completely rewrites that first impression over time. The more you watch them, the less they make sense by ordinary standards. That's because some people aren't recognized at first. They're revealed. And here's the funny part. Some people spend hours trying to figure out her secret. They analyze her clothes, her personality, her routine, even the way she drinks her coffee, as if the answer is hiding at the bottom of the cup. Spoiler alert, it isn't. When people begin to realize that a Sigma female is walking a path guided by something greater than popularity, luck, or human approval, something fascinating happens. Their behavior changes. Some become unusually quiet. Others become unexpectedly respectful. A few even start questioning themselves in ways they never expected. In today's video, we're uncovering 12 extraordinary things people do when they realize a Sigma female is God-chosen. These aren't the predictable reactions you've heard 100 times before. They're subtle, psychological, and surprisingly honest. By the end, you may recognize these behaviors in people around you, or perhaps even in yourself. Number 1. They stop trying to be her teacher. One of the first things people do when they realize a Sigma female is God-chosen is stop trying to fix her. At first, they assume she's simply stubborn, quiet, or inexperienced. They believe all she needs is their advice, their opinions, or their way of seeing the world. So they step into her life thinking they'll shape her into someone better. But over time, something unexpected happens. They begin to notice that she doesn't reject advice because she's arrogant. She simply weighs everything carefully before accepting it. She listens more than she speaks, but she doesn't follow every voice that crosses her path. She has already learned that not every lesson comes from the loudest person in the room. Some lessons are taught in silence, through prayer, hardship, patience, and personal conviction. That's when people realize they aren't dealing with someone who is easily influenced. She's already been refined by battles no one saw. The wisdom she carries wasn't borrowed from trends or popular opinions. It was earned through seasons that required faith instead of applause. Eventually, those who once tried to guide her begin asking for her perspective instead. The roles quietly reverse. Without announcing it or demanding respect, she becomes the one people seek when life becomes confusing. Not because she claims to know everything, but because her calm judgment has proven itself over time. And that's something no title, degree, or loud personality can fake. Number 2. They begin watching her more than listening to her. A strange shift happens when people realize a Sigma female is God-chosen. They stop hanging on every word she says and start paying close attention to what she does. They discover that her real message isn't spoken, it's lived. Her choices become louder than her conversations, and that's what captures people's attention. They notice she doesn't panic when everyone else is rushing. She doesn't change her values just because they're unpopular. She doesn't seek approval before making difficult decisions. Instead, she quietly stays consistent, even when nobody is clapping for her. That kind of stability is rare, and people can't help but study it. The interesting part is that she usually doesn't know she's being watched. Someone notices how she handles disappointment without becoming bitter. Another notices how she treats people who can't offer her anything in return. Others pay attention to how she stays humble after succeeding and how she refuses to let failure define her. These small moments leave a deeper impression than long speeches ever could. Eventually, people realize they can predict her character even if they can't predict her next move. That's because principles, not emotions, guide her decisions. In a world where many people make promises they never keep, she quietly becomes proof that integrity still exists. Without trying to inspire anyone, she ends up teaching one powerful lesson. A life that stays true to its values will always speak louder than a voice trying to impress the crowd. Number 3. They secretly test their own character around her. When people begin to realize a Sigma female is God-chosen, something unexpected happens. Without anyone asking them to, they start examining themselves. Her presence has a quiet way of exposing what people usually hide, not because she points fingers, but because she refuses to pretend. They begin noticing the little things. They catch themselves before telling an unnecessary lie. They think twice before making a promise they don't intend to keep. Even those who normally cut corners feel an unusual urge to be more honest around her. It's as if being fake suddenly feels uncomfortable. The reason is simple. She doesn't compete with people, judge them loudly, or constantly correct their mistakes. She simply lives by standards that don't change depending on who's watching. That kind of consistency is rare, and it forces others to ask themselves uncomfortable questions. Am I really the person I claim to be? Would my actions match my words if no one was looking? Some people grow because of those questions. Others become uneasy because facing the truth requires humility. Either way, she becomes a silent measuring stick without ever trying to be one. The remarkable part is that she never asks anyone to become like her. She simply refuses to lower her values to make others comfortable. In doing so, she reminds people that character isn't revealed during easy moments. It's revealed in the quiet decisions nobody applauds, and that realization often becomes the beginning of someone's greatest personal change. Number 4. They become uncomfortable with their own excuses. One of the quietest changes people experience around a God-chosen Sigma female is that their excuses stop sounding convincing, even to themselves. Before meeting her, it was easy to blame bad timing, difficult people, a lack of opportunity, or unfair circumstances. But after watching how she lives, those same excuses begin to lose their power. She doesn't have a perfect life. She faces disappointment, rejection, delays, and seasons where nothing seems to go her way. The difference is that she refuses to let those things become her identity. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" she asks, "What can I learn from this?" That mindset is difficult to ignore. People start comparing their reactions to hers. They notice how quickly they give up, how often they complain, or how easily they settle for less than they are capable of. Suddenly, blaming everyone else doesn't feel as satisfying. Deep down, they realize that many of the walls they keep talking about are actually doors they have been too afraid to open. What makes this so powerful is that she never lectures anyone. She doesn't shame people for struggling or act as though she has all the answers. She simply keeps moving forward with quiet faith and steady discipline. That consistency shines a light on the difference between having reasons and making excuses. And for many people, that realization is uncomfortable, but it is also the first step toward real growth. Number 5. They lose interest in impressing everyone else. One of the most unexpected things that happens when people realize a Sigma female is God-chosen is that they slowly stop living for other people's applause. Watching her makes them question a habit they never even knew they had, the constant need to be noticed. They notice she isn't trying to prove she's successful. She doesn't announce every achievement or seek validation for every decision. She can accomplish something remarkable and move on with her life without waiting for compliments. That kind of confidence is rare because it comes from knowing who she is, not from hearing who others think she is. At first, people don't understand it. They wonder why she isn't chasing attention like everyone else. But the longer they observe her, the more they realize how exhausting it is to perform for a crowd that is never satisfied. They begin asking themselves a difficult question. Who am I trying so hard to impress? That question changes everything. They start caring less about fitting in and more about living with purpose. They stop measuring their worth by likes, praise, or popularity. Instead, they begin looking for something deeper. Peace that doesn't disappear when the applause ends. A God-chosen Sigma female never tells people to stop seeking approval. She simply shows them, through her own life, that freedom begins the moment you no longer need permission to be yourself. And once people experience that freedom, they rarely want to return to a life built on constant approval. Number 6. They start editing their stories before telling them. One of the most revealing signs that people recognize a Sigma female is God-chosen is how carefully they begin choosing their words around her. Not because she intimidates them, but because they sense that pretending won't work. They realize she pays attention to details that most people overlook. She listens beyond the words and notices whether a story carries truth or simply sounds impressive. At first, people may exaggerate their achievements, leave out important facts, or twist a situation to make themselves look better. But after a while, they catch themselves. They pause before speaking. They remove the exaggeration. They tell the story more honestly than they normally would. What changed? They begin to understand that she values authenticity far more than appearances. She isn't impressed by titles, expensive possessions, or dramatic stories. She is quietly watching for consistency. Do your actions match your words? Does your character match your image? Those are the questions that matter to her. Some people find this refreshing because they no longer feel the need to perform. Others find it unsettling because they realize how much energy they've spent creating an image instead of building real character. Without saying a single word about honesty, she raises the standard of every conversation around her. People slowly discover that truth doesn't need decoration to be powerful, and when someone carries genuine discernment, even the best performance eventually loses its audience. Number 7. They feel strange when they receive her approval. There is something different about receiving approval from a God-chosen Sigma female. It doesn't feel ordinary, and that's because she doesn't hand out compliments just to make people feel good. She isn't impressed by loud personalities, flashy achievements, or carefully crafted images. She pays attention to something much deeper: character. People quickly notice that she doesn't praise everyone for everything. If she says, "You handled that well," or "I respect that," they know she means it. There are no hidden motives, no empty flattery, and no pressure to return the compliment. Her words carry weight because they are rare and sincere. This often catches people off guard. Those who are used to chasing validation suddenly find themselves valuing her opinion more than they expected, not because she has authority over them, but because they trust her honesty. They know she would rather say nothing than speak words she doesn't believe. Over time, people begin striving to earn respect instead of attention. They become more patient, more dependable, and more genuine. Not to impress her, but because her standards remind them of the kind of person they truly want to become. That is the quiet influence of a God-chosen Sigma female. She doesn't build people up with exaggerated praise. She builds them by recognizing what is real. And in a world overflowing with empty compliments, sincere respect becomes one of the most valuable gifts anyone can receive. Number 8. They start protecting their energy without knowing why. One of the quietest changes people experience after recognizing a God-chosen Sigma female is that they begin guarding their own peace. They may not even realize she's influencing them, but after watching how she lives, they start seeing how much of their energy has been wasted on things that never deserved it. They notice she doesn't attend every argument she's invited to. She doesn't answer every insult, explain every decision, or chase every misunderstanding. She has learned that not every battle is meant to be fought. Some are meant to be walked away from. That way of living makes people uncomfortable at first, because it goes against what they've always believed. They've been taught to defend themselves constantly, to have the last word, and to prove people wrong. But she quietly proves that protecting your peace often requires more strength than protecting your pride. Slowly, they begin making different choices. They spend less time with people who leave them emotionally drained. They stop carrying problems that don't belong to them. They become more careful about what they allow into their minds and hearts, because they finally understand that energy is limited. Once it's gone, it doesn't return easily. A God-chosen Sigma female doesn't isolate herself because she dislikes people. She protects her peace because she understands that her purpose requires clarity, and clarity cannot survive in constant chaos. Watching her live this way teaches others that peace isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you intentionally preserve every single day. Number 9. They begin respecting silence instead of filling it. One of the biggest changes people experience when they realize a Sigma female is God-chosen is that they stop fearing silence. Most people have been conditioned to believe that every quiet moment must be filled with words. If a conversation pauses, they rush to speak. If there is stillness, they become uncomfortable. But around her, they discover that silence has a purpose. She doesn't speak just to avoid awkwardness. She speaks when her words have value. If there is nothing meaningful to add, she is perfectly comfortable letting the moment breathe. That kind of confidence is rare because it shows she isn't afraid of being misunderstood or overlooked. People begin noticing something remarkable. Some of the clearest answers come after the conversation becomes quiet. Emotions settle, pride loses its grip. Truth has room to surface. They realize that constant talking often hides real thoughts instead of revealing them. Over time, they become less eager to interrupt and more willing to listen. They stop preparing their next response while someone else is still speaking. Instead, they start paying attention, not only to the words being said, but also to what isn't being said. A God-chosen Sigma female understands that wisdom doesn't always arrive with a loud voice. Sometimes it comes wrapped in stillness. Her silence isn't empty, it is intentional. And those who spend enough time around her eventually learn that the loudest person in the room is rarely the one with the deepest understanding. Number 10. They stop expecting immediate access to her. One of the clearest signs that people recognize a Sigma female is God-chosen is that they stop assuming they have unlimited access to her time, attention, and presence. At first, some people expect her to always be available, to answer every call, reply to every message, attend every gathering, and make room for everyone else's needs. But they soon discover she doesn't live that way. She understands that her time is connected to her purpose. She doesn't confuse being kind with being constantly available. If she's quiet, it isn't because she's angry. If she says no, it isn't because she's selfish. She simply refuses to sacrifice what matters most for things that add little value to her life. This realization changes how people approach her. They begin respecting her boundaries instead of questioning them. They stop demanding instant responses and start appreciating the moments she genuinely chooses to share. They understand that real relationships are built on mutual respect, not unlimited access. The surprising part is that her boundaries don't push away the right people. They reveal them. Those who truly care about her learn patience. They don't pressure her or guilt-trip her into giving more than she can. Instead, they honor the space she needs to stay grounded. A God-chosen Sigma female knows that every yes costs her time, energy, and focus. That's why she chooses carefully. And once people understand that, they no longer see her boundaries as rejection. They begin to recognize them as wisdom in action. Number 11. They notice that noise doesn't always mean power. One of the biggest surprises people experience when they realize a Sigma female is God-chosen is discovering that true influence doesn't always come with a loud voice. Society teaches that the person who talks the most, posts the most, or demands the most attention is the strongest. But she quietly proves the opposite. She doesn't compete to be the center of every conversation. She doesn't interrupt people just to make her opinion heard. She doesn't chase recognition or fight for the spotlight. Yet when a difficult decision needs to be made, people naturally look in her direction. They trust her judgment because it has been tested, not advertised. Over time, people begin noticing a pattern. The loudest voices often create confusion, while her calm presence brings clarity. Others react emotionally to every challenge, but she responds with wisdom and self-control. That difference is impossible to ignore. This changes the way people define strength. They stop confusing confidence with arrogance and authority with volume. They realize that someone who has to constantly announce their importance may not be as powerful as they appear. Real power doesn't need to introduce itself every day. A God-chosen Sigma female understands that influence is earned through consistency, integrity, and quiet conviction. She lets her character do the talking long before her mouth ever does. And those who pay close attention eventually learn one unforgettable lesson. The strongest presence in a room is often the one that never has to raise its voice to be heard. Number 12. They stop calling her different and start calling her rare. At first, people don't know what to make of a God-chosen Sigma female. They describe her with simple words like different, unusual, or hard to understand. They assume she's just another person with an uncommon personality. But as time passes, those labels no longer seem big enough. They begin to realize that what makes her stand out isn't that she's trying to be different. In fact, she isn't trying to stand out at all. She doesn't dress, speak, or behave a certain way just to attract attention. She isn't building an identity around being unique. She is simply committed to living by convictions that don't change with trends, opinions, or pressure. That's when people's language begins to change. Instead of saying she's different, they start saying she's rare. Rare because she stays humble when she has every reason to boast. Rare because she remains kind without becoming easy to take advantage of. Rare because she can forgive without forgetting the lesson. Rare because she refuses to trade her values for acceptance, even when standing alone would be the easier choice. The greatest surprise is that her rarity isn't found in extraordinary talents or perfect circumstances. It's found in her consistency. In a world where so many people change to fit the moment, she remains anchored to who God has called her to be. And that's what leaves the deepest impression. Long after people forget what she wore, where she worked, or what she owned, they remember how genuine she was. They realize they didn't meet someone who was merely different. They encountered someone truly rare, and that kind of person is never easily forgotten. Conclusion. A God-chosen Sigma female isn't defined by how much attention she receives, how many people admire her, or how often the world understands her. She is recognized by something far deeper. Her quiet strength, unwavering convictions, peaceful spirit, and consistent character leave an impact that words alone cannot explain. She doesn't force respect, chase approval, or compete for a place in the spotlight. She simply walks the path she believes God has placed before her, and over time, people can't help but notice the difference. The reactions you've heard throughout this video reveal something important. When people encounter someone who refuses to compromise their values, they are often challenged to examine their own. Some will grow because of it, others will walk away from it. But no one remains completely unchanged. That's the quiet influence of a life rooted in purpose rather than popularity. If these signs resonated with you, take them as a reminder to stay faithful to who God has called you to be. You don't have to explain your journey to everyone, and you don't need the world's permission to live with integrity. Keep growing, keep trusting, and let your life speak louder than your words ever could. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another inspiring message. Share this video with someone who needs this encouragement today and let us know in the comments. Which of these signs stood out to you the most, and have you ever witnessed one of them in real life? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and until next time, continue walking in wisdom, purpose, and quiet strength.